Who knows who Schaeffer Cox is? Schaeffer Cox is one of our people. He should be in his tent. He's not in his tent, he's in prison. He was running for office during the Ron Paul days. He was a Ron Paul guy, like a lot of us. And he was getting so popular in Alaska, where he's from, and he was getting 900 to 1,000 people at every rally that he held. And he was in command of a pretty large militia. Young guy, he was like 23. But people gravitated toward him. He was a natural leader. He was saying all the same stuff that Ron Paul was saying at the same time. And he was having such an impact that the they, them, those took notice and sent informants into his life to infiltrate his life and to try to get him to do something violent. But they had the wrong guy, because Schaeffer Cox is not a violent person. And he even said, if they ever come for me, I'm gonna pull a Gandhi, not a Rambo. And they tried to frame him for a number of things. They tried to kill him several times. He and his family were actually held against their will, essentially kidnapped by one of the FBI informants that were sent into his life. And he finally got his family out, and they were trying to get onto a truck to get to Mexico, to get out of Alaska. He had two small children and his wife, and they were ambushed by a SWAT team that was sent there to kill them. Just so happens, by the grace of God, the owner of the property where they were meeting this person that was going to smuggle them out, the owner of the property happened upon the scene, and they weren't able to kill him, which was the plan. And instead, they sentenced him in an illegal trial, because his federal trial was thrown out for lack of evidence. When they don't have anything to charge you with, they charge you with conspiracy. Okay, always remember that. When they have nothing on you, it's conspiracy. And they got him on a couple of charges of conspiracy and a bogus weapons charge, and he got 27 years. Oh. And they sent him to a communications management unit in Indiana, in Terre Haute, which is like Guantanamo Bay in the US. There's a couple of these communication management units, and everybody, when they supposedly closed Guantanamo, supposedly, they shipped all those guys, all the radical jihadis. They sent them to this unit, and they put Schaeffer Cox in there with them, so that he would be killed. That was the point. He's the son of a preacher, and he's just a good guy, he's a Christian, and he's a patriot, and he believes in freedom for all. And he had like a handful of people in there that were his core group, and several of them were murdered, and the guards do nothing. And so I came upon his story because somebody from the Fully Informed Jury Association, FIJA, I don't know if any of you are familiar with FIJA, one of them got a hold of me and told me about Schaeffer, and sent me his book that he had written in prison. He had written a book of poetry and song lyrics. And when he was still in a prison in Washington, before he was sent to Indiana, he had written all of this, like a whole book worth of poetry and lyrics. And then he was like suddenly pulled away and shipped off, and he thought that his lyrics were lost forever. But somebody, and we have no idea who, smuggled them out of the prison and sent them to his attorney, who then sent them to his support team, who had been published into a book. And that book ended up in my hands. And I read this book and I wept. And I was deeply moved, and I got a hold of his foundation, and we worked out a situation for that where we did a song for him, because his resentencing was coming up, and there was a strong chance it could be reduced or he could be exonerated. And so we did the song, we did a music video for it, and it was censored like crazy on all the different platforms. So I probably did, I don't know, 50 shows, like podcasts, talking about Schaeffer and getting the word out. And I'm not attributing what I'm about to say to me, but like there was a big movement around it in 2019 to push for him to be exonerated, and I was very blessed to have been part of that. But he when he was resentenced, he got like 14 years shaved off. So he had 6 more to go after that was shaved off. So he should be out in a couple of years. Thank God. His kids will be grown, yeah. So I got a chance to talk to Schaeffer on the phone and play the song for him. And we talked to him in prison. He only had 15 minutes, and he could hear my children playing in the background. And he said, and remember, this guy is no different than you or I. It's the same philosophy. You know, he did nothing wrong. And he said to me, I forgot the sound of children's voices, and hearing your kids playing in the background reminded me that there is a real world outside of this prison. Wow. And that I feel I've lost the ability to cry, but I think I could possibly cry again after the song and hearing my kids in the background. So if you don't know, if you never heard about Schaeffer before this moment, look up freeschaeffer.org. freeschaeffer.org. He's an amazing person, and looking forward to meeting him when he gets out. This is The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox.
Sure.
So you finally hear my pleas through these walls from my knees, and the walls stretch out like an ocean, like a tree where I'm waiting for the world to wake from its sleep. Haven't I given all? Here I stand, here I fall. Someday soon I'll be free. What a day that will be. And Lord, the war's already won. Lies are scattered and undone. Now there's only time between me and what is mine, and the truth will shine through in the end. But until then, didn't I give it all? I will stand, here I fall. One day soon I'll be free. What a day that will be. So long, and the years become one song, and I'm just trying to change my fate. Dear God, I'm not too late. Haven't I given all? Stand, ere I fall. One day soon I'll be free. What a day that will be. 'Cause I was made for greater things. Dungeons have made many kings. One day soon I will be through the veil. Wait for me. One day okay. So a couple of lines in that song were actually lyrics in Schaeffer's book, so he's actually a co-author on that song. I was made for greater things, dungeons have made many kings.
See, like in the Discord, like we send them all this stuff in Portfest. Like it, and like stuff like that. Send pictures and stuff.
Do we know the story of Lavoy Finicum? Those of you who don't, he was an Arizona rancher who was standing up for a family that was being terrorized by the Bureau of Land Management. They are an evil organization, an unlawful organization. And they were terrorizing a family and trying to kill them and burn down their house because they wanted their land. And when that family stood against them, they were the patriarch of the family and his son were sent to prison for domestic terrorism, for defending their home against these government terrorists. And Ammon Bundy, who's a good friend, and a whole bunch of guys went up to Oregon, took over this wildlife refuge, which was the administrative staging point of all the Bureau of Land Management's activities in the area, trying to build a legal case against them and show the world what was really going on. Unfortunately, Lavoy Finicum, Robert Lavoy Finicum, who was really one of the spokesmen of the group, was murdered by federal agents and state patrol at an illegal kill stop on his way to go meet with the sheriff. And he was unarmed and he was shot 9 times. I was following the situation very closely because I knew a lot of guys that were there, and like I said before, I was supposed to go play at the refuge for those guys. And the night that Lavoy was killed, I was so angry, you know, I was so dark that night. I couldn't sit still. And that feeling sort of worked its way up into a frenzy in me, and then I just heard this bubble pop over my head. And the Holy Spirit came into my living room and just hit me like a wind, and it knocked everything out. And I was just a blank slate. And I heard a voice say, he was a man who loved to walk the land. He'd turn his cheek, but also take a stand. And so I knew what was happening because it had happened to me many times. And so I just started typing, started writing the words that I heard. And that was Monday. Tuesday night, Mary filmed me on the couch. We lived in Montana. She filmed me on the couch singing the song, put it on YouTube about midnight. Wednesday morning, it had like 20,000 views. Or no, 10,000 views. So in a matter of like 8 hours or something. And then the next day it had 25,000 views, and it started growing. And the day after that, Lavoy Finicum's daughter calls me. And she says, we're all here at the ranch and everyone's crying and everyone's coming over. And we've been watching your video with your song for my dad over and over and over. And we keep starting it over for everybody that comes into the house. And you know, it's helping us to know that our father will not be forgotten and that his death won't have been for nothing. And that was a real reality moment for me, you know, because like, you know, you have goals in life and you have like, you know, your own dreams of who you are and who you're gonna be and whatnot. But like that really like humbled me in like such a real way. And I realized in that moment I could never ask for a song of mine to do anything more important than something like that, to help a family grieve the loss of a loved one, you know, who'd been slain in the line of standing out. So I ended up. What's that? Yeah, he was absolutely murdered in cold blood. He actually drew fire away from the van that he was driving, because there were women and teenagers in the van. And they started firing. And he left the van to draw their fire away, and he died in the snow. And the only time I ever saw the man was at his funeral in the flesh, and I got to touch him. And I played this song at the funeral. But yeah, so this is a song. This is the Ballad of Lavoy Finicum. Cowboys stand for